Okay, here's video lecture part A on our next special topic, which also correlates with our, or rather corresponds with our unit on learning and memory. I want to talk about the internet and social media, specifically the internet. Again, in the social sciences, this is one of the things that we're talking a lot about is the exposure of children to the internet and various forms of social media. So that's what we're heading today, and you guys should have the PowerPoint shell for this as well. So, some general facts about American youth and the internet. 48% of students in kindergarten through the first grade interact with people on websites. So that's almost half. At that young of an age is pretty alarming. 50% of the parents indicate that they leave their kindergarten and first grade students unsupervised when they are engaged on the internet. And a lot of parents seem to be overwhelmed at times, and a lot of times they leave their children to be basically babysat by computers and televisions. 48% of kindergarten and first graders reported they had viewed material online that made them feel uncomfortable. And of this 48%, only 25% did not report what they saw on the internet to their parents. So there is a percentage of these young children who are viewing material that makes them feel uncomfortable and not saying anything at all to their parents. So they're left to themselves to process this information. And I think we all know what kind of information is out there on the internet. If you've stumbled upon it even accidentally, you can find just about anything that you want to find. Oops, I apologize. I'll get back to where I was here. So the question is this a problem? Some people say yes. I happen to be the parent of a teenage girl, and I can recall several times where I was supervising my daughter, and there were some things that she stumbled upon on the internet that were, I'll just say I'm glad I was there to help her process them. So it can be an issue, especially if children are left unsupervised. And there are some that argue that it's really not that big of a deal. So, okay, 93% of all teenagers 13 to 17 years of age use the internet regularly, which is up from 87% in 2004 and up from 73% in 2000. 32% of teenagers clear their internet browsers to hide their internet activities from their parents. If I were in class, I would do a brief survey and ask if any of you had ever done this, and of course some people are willing to raise their hands, others not. That doesn't mean that you're doing anything inappropriate necessarily, but a lot of times children and teenagers just don't want their parents to know what they're doing. They don't want us in their business. And we could argue whether that's good or bad. 16% of teenagers have created private email addresses and or private social network profiles to hide what they do from their parents. And these statistics are a couple years old, so I suspect that these numbers may actually be a little bit higher today. 63% of teenagers said that they know how to hide what they do online from their parents. So, oops, I did it again, sorry. Is this a problem, or is this cause for alarm? Again, some of you may think, yes, this is a problem. I know a lot of parents, people my age, think that it could definitely be a problem. Again, others think that it's really not that big a deal. Oops, sorry about that. Let me get this where I had it. Sorry about that. Okay, 43% of teenagers admitted to closing or minimizing their internet browsers at the sound of a parental step. 11% of teenagers have disabled or unblocked parental filtering controls online. And I know this date is a little bit old. As of 2008, 71% of teenagers had established online profiles such as MyFace, Facebook, Friendster, etc. I know some of these are outdated now. Up from 61% in 2006. And there are other social profiles or social media profiles. There's Twitter as well. There's Instagram. I mean, there are a lot of different ways and avenues for children and adolescents to communicate without really parents or adults knowing. if you fast forward to today, that number of teenagers, the percentage of teenagers establishing online profiles is closer to 90%. And again, we could debate whether this is a problem or not. And you can contemplate this. Probably if you're watching this, you are a teenager or close to it, so you may not think it's a big deal, or maybe you do. 52% of teenagers have given out personal information about themselves to someone they did not know online. Now we're starting to get into some areas that could be a little more dangerous. 34% of teenage girls have shared or provided physical descriptions, photos, or pictures of themselves to people that they did not know online. And again, this is not a question I would ask you in class or here, but you can think about this, and I would bet you probably, if you're watching this, you know someone or some people at your school who have given photos, appropriate photos of themselves, nothing even, that would be questionable, to someone they didn't know. 15% of boys, so it's not just girls, boys do this as well, and 15% of boys reported doing this. So we could see how we might be starting down a dangerous road, perhaps. Is this a problem? And that might be cut off at the top. That says 20% at the very top. 20% of teenagers have engaged in cyberbullying. So this is something else that's a really big problem. And I've seen it in the middle schools. I've seen it happening in the high schools as well. When I was younger, bullying was just face-to-face. You didn't have phones and laptops and computers and social media avenues to perpetrate bullying. But now it happens through social media. People can post mean information, post false or hurtful information, inappropriate pictures, spreading rumors, making public very private communications or texts or not tweets, but texts or messages, sending anonymous emails, making outright threats. And I've seen situations in schools. I had a situation where there was a young woman, probably your all's age, 16, 17, somewhere in there, who confided some very personal information with a friend of hers. And this person who she thought was her friend was carrying a digital voice recorder and recorded every single thing this girl said. She was saying things about other boys in her school, teachers, other personal information, essentially venting to her friend. And what she didn't realize was her friend recorded it all and posted it online for everybody to hear. So that was a sad example of cyberbullying. And again, I wouldn't ask you to raise your hand in class on this, but I would ask you to think if you knew of someone at your school who had been the victim of cyberbullying. And I bet a lot of you would raise your hands. Or maybe know someone who perpetrates this kind of bullying. And you could probably think of some people. So this is becoming a really bigger problem in school. So I would say that is definitely a problem. And just to start thinking about the different psychological problems and the psychological impact this could have on victims. Anxiety, depression, lots of other eating disorders, other problems as well. Some more statistics here for you. I'm going to try to make this larger. Maybe. Possibly. Okay. 65% of high school students admit to unsafe, inappropriate, or illegal activities online. That's 65% of high school students. From the above group mentioned, 65% of these students admit to doing it at high school, actually on the properties of high schools. 31% of high school students pretend to be older to gain access to a website. I suspect that number is higher, given that you have to be how old to be on Facebook, and I know a lot of middle school students have Facebook accounts, and even younger. These statistics, again, are a couple years old, so I suspect that number is higher. Nearly 1 out of 5 kids or teenagers between the ages of 8 and 18 have an internet connection in their bedrooms. And 13% of youth have a handheld device allowing them internet access. Again, these statistics are a couple years old. I've done some recent research. That number, if you fast forward to today, it depends on how you define youth, because that's incorporating young children as well. But that number is probably closer to 25 to 35%, depending on what statistics you are looking at. So, is that a problem? Again, I suspect children and adolescents would differ from parents and grandparents in their response to that question. Is this a problem? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call this the stopping point for part A of this video. Thank you very much.